Welcome, everybody. And let me do the intro. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome, everybody, and everything. Much appreciated for being here. Let me bring my guest in. Hey, how you doing, brother? I can't hear you, Teller.
Whoops. It'd be nice
Okay,
if I unmuted myself. What's up, guys? How you guys doing tonight? What's up, Tech Via Needs?
let me say a couple of highs and then we continue.
Yeah,
So the
absolutely,
first
man.
thing, bear with me, because Sharfin, thanks for being here.
Sharky, what up, man?
Holla at your boy, LaShawn. You're late. Miles Tech,
Mile, what up, man?
and welcome to EA. So before we continue, I want to do housekeeping. Let me look at the lens. Thursday, I'm having a special celebration at 8 p.m. My 1K subscribers, and I'm getting equipment. And once I get my equipment, I'm gonna start recording my next video. And with that said, thanks everybody for subscribing. Appreciate everybody. I made it through the actual 1K. And I'm gonna have ready my background and everything. LaShawn already saw everything in Michael Pepper. I just gotta put it together. I tried one time, but I
Nice.
had to fix the wall. I'm not, I'm build. I don't know how to build stuff like that. But you get my point. So let me say hi to Evan. Holla at your boy, Evan. Who else? Jared. And let's get continue. Let's start with the. Let's leave the phone for last, and let's start with the watch and everything else. If you don't mind. So what?
Sure.
Let's start with the watch. I'll say one thing, then I'll let you talk. This watch, nothing changed, just the color. This is the Ultra.
Yep. Yep.
Nothing changed, just but the color, a little, enhancement on the speed and improvement and better AI capability. But that's all. Nothing special. Nothing. I'll let you take the conversation. Talk about the other watches at this point. Anything you want on watches, go ahead. It's yours, Taylor.
Uh, First, I want to say hi to my friend Jared. I see you in the chat, man. What's up?
Salute.
Um, and yeah, I agree. Honestly, besides the color change and minor improvements and stuff like that, there's not really much to go on. Um,
Yes, saluting
if
everybody.
if you have the current Ultra, I honestly wouldn't even see a reason to upgrade. Um, I mean, unless you want a new color, but literally it, literally it. Um, as
Mhm.
far as like the other ones, I think that the Series 10, man, they did an excellent job with that thing. I really wanted more out of it, but you know what? I'm happy with what we got because honestly, I think these minor improvements year over year, um, they're needed, and I think
Mhm.
concentrating little by little versus doing a big thing, I think that's important. You know what I mean? Like I think
Yeah,
you start small, and work your way up. And that's
true.
what they're doing here.
So let me explain a little bit about the new watches. This is what I understood, and you correct me if I'm wrong. Let me look at the
Mhm.
lens. The new watches is going to be more bigger, flat screen, skinnier, but I heard it's going to be bigger than this one.
Mhm.
Correct me if
Mhm.
I'm wrong. That's what I got an article from the Verge.
Yep.
Let me bring my other guest over here. Are you
Mhm.
ready? Okay, cool. Hey, welcome.
All right, hear me?
MPT.
Yeah. Let me change this layout.
MPT. What up, man?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Loud and clear, man.
Yeah,
My
I'll leave it like that.
microphone's up here. I put it out of view and I've been
Ooh.
testing doing that and it should
Mhm.
hear me just fine. It's just.
Little bit of an
Okay.
echo, but I think it is fine.
And let me salute quickly, technically T. Yeah, audio is working today. Got everything on point. Once again, before we continue, I want to say for the new people came in, I'm going to celebrate my 1K on Thursday, 8
Yep.
p.m. And once I get my equipment, tomorrow I'll finish my whole video. It's a simple video. But let's get talking about the watch. I heard that the 10 is going to get bigger, but skinnier, like flatter. And everybody could chime in. Go ahead. Then this one, the Ultra.
MPT, I will let you have the stage on that one.
So basically, I feel like with the Series 10, if you're gonna buy anything over like the base model, once you start adding, if you start adding cellular, especially if you do titanium, you might as well just buy the Ultra, because once you do the titanium and the cellular, you're at 749. Now, yeah, you get the newer S10 chip, and you're getting like the LTPO3 OLED, but technically it's dimmer. So what's interesting is it's got the same brightness as the original Apple Watch Ultra. So really, if you're a type of person that like you're gonna just buy the regular model because you don't need cellular connection, you are okay with the normal like aluminum materials, don't care that you're probably going to get maybe a day and a half, 2 days. Well, I was getting 3 or 4 days on my Series 7, but so, if you're a light user, you're going to get maybe 3 or 4 days. If you're a somewhat moderate user, you'll get, a day and a half, 2 days. And you throw that on the charger. The one thing that's nice is a half an hour, 80% charge.
Yep.
Now, Ultra takes an hour to get 80%, but it's also twice the capacity. Like, your battery's going to last twice as long, so it makes sense it's going to take twice as long to charge up. But yeah, if you're looking, I find it interesting. It's only $30 more to get the larger screen. But what's really confusing is they say like, okay, we're going to give you a 46 millimeter screen, and that's bigger than the Ultra, but the Ultra is listed at 49 millimeters.
Correct.
But it's because they're listing body size. So the screen is larger on the 46 millimeter than the 49 millimeter Ultra because the bezels are thinner. They were able to bring it closer to the edge, stretch it out. It's kind of like how we'll get there eventually, but the 16 Pro Max is just taller than the 15 Pro Max. It's not wider, but it's not 0.2 inches taller. It's only a few millimeters taller because they were able to make the bezels thinner and make the screen bigger. Kind of like what they did before when they went from 6.1 to 6.3. They're able to do that by just making the bezels smaller, but the phone itself is basically the same size. So that's what they did with the watch. You still get 50 meter for diving. You still get most all the new features. Now, here's my thing. If you don't really need the new brighter display, and you don't really like a Series 9 will probably be on sale, and you might be able to save like $100 on that. And the features that they talked about, most of all of them are coming to the Series 9 and the Ultra 2, like as part of the software upgrade. The only thing I don't know about, because I haven't checked it yet, because I don't actually have Apple Music subscription right now to test, is if you're going to be able to do where it can play Apple Music and podcast out the speakers. If that's...
I know I heard that you could do the podcast, but I don't know if it's speaker or... Because I know you're able to do it with Bluetooth, so I'm thinking the speaker is the way they said it. That's what I heard. I could be wrong. Correct me. And also, this number 2, nothing changed. Just the color, and it dies. A little improvement to make it better, but minor improvement.
Dude, I
don't know. That's a rip-off, but go ahead, Taylor.
I honestly, I think these minor upgrades are pretty cool and all, but nowadays I'm looking more for software. I think software over hardware completely, especially if you have something like, the Series 9, let's say, I don't see much of an upgrade there. I mean, yeah, there's the redesign as far as like the speaker goes and everything, but I mean, anything else, not really much. So if you're upgrading from anything below like Series 7, and below, do it. But if not, wait, save your money.
Also, I was gonna ask, I don't know what is the standard because I'm having to do research on the area, the block oxygen because it works on the Ultra first generation. Are they gonna do it for United States? No. So how come I still have it over
So,
here?
because your watch was produced before the cutoff date, same thing where like you could have a series. Well, let's see. Was it the Series 9 that they got? No, some of the Series 9 still had it, right?
Yes, mine still had it.
It
But
was if
mine
you had
still
to get it
had it.
replaced, then
Yeah.
they if you had to get it replaced and they gave you a new one or like even the refurbished, they had to shut it off.
When I got mine, mine still had it, but it wasn't working. It said when you went to go open the app, it would say app failed or whatever it was. I remember
Yeah,
checking
they
it
still
out.
have the app, but some of them actually still had it working until a certain point, and then
Yeah,
if you
no,
got one after that, they like
when
cut
I
it
got
off.
mine, it wasn't working.
Yeah, so look, my Ultra 2 that I've had for a couple months has the app. You just open it, it says like, "Hey, it doesn't work," and you click on a thing, and like there's a whole explainer that tells you like, "Hey, this is why we can't do it
Right,
right now."
right.
I'm assuming the company that they're in the battle with either wants a ton of money
Hmm.
that it's not worth Apple spending that amount of money, and they're seeing that they're not losing a lot of sales on it because the people that would care about that or people don't know about it or don't care about it enough to have that being a missing thing, I guess. Or the company's not willing to, for any amount of money, give it up because maybe they see like, hey, even if Apple offered us, $1 billion for it, it's worth so much more to us. And maybe they're licensing it to other companies,
Yeah.
and so they can't give it up. And
I
they
can't
just
show you.
you know. But I still think if Apple were to be like, hey, we'll give you, you know, such and such amount of money, and we'll give you like $10 for every Apple Watch we sell,
Right,
that would
right.
be a smart move on that company because they would be getting way more than
Oh yeah,
what they probably get up front for selling that stuff. And
oh yeah,
Apple's probably
definitely.
just working on, as far as I know, Apple's working
Sure.
on figuring out a method around it anyways.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just want
My
to
angle
respond.
wasn't working. I was trying to show you, but my angle wasn't correct. But I
Uh,
want to read this question before we continue.
yeah,
So the Series
I
10
want to
really looked
respond to
like.
that.
Okay, well, go ahead. You can read it, Taylor.
So Sharksman is saying the Series 10 re- really looks nice. I especially like the thinness, lighter weight, and brighter display, and the sleep apnea feature caught my attention. Will I buy it? Probably not. But hey, never say never. And I agree, Sharkfin. Never say never. Um, I and like I was just saying, I have the Series 9, but honestly, that one feature alone catches my attention. Um, so will I buy it? Again, like you just said, never say never. I mean, I'm not in the market and I'm not, my wallet doesn't speak the language, but if I have to at some point, I'll get the money somewhere. Like I said, it's just for these features alone. I wish a lot of and that feature especially. I think that could come software based and not so much hardware but based. I don't know.
And let me look at this other comment quickly for Technically T. He says, I'm so tempted to get the Series 10 and ditch my Watch Ultra 2. Sounds crazy. I know. So, anybody want to talk about that? I don't know.
Interesting. So I'm looking at their website right now, and
Okay,
it
cool.
looks like though it looks like the sleep apnea stuff is coming to like the Apple Watch Ultra 2 and the Series 9. Huh. I see it listed under the Apple Watch Ultra 2. I know that. That's probably why they didn't um upgrade, didn't add some of the things.
Right.
Let's see. The sleep apnea notification feature is pending FDA clearance and it's expected to be available later this month. The feature will be supported on Apple Watch Series 9, Apple Watch Series 10, and the Apple Watch Ultra 2. It is intended to detect signs of moderate to severe sleep apnea for people 18 years or older without diagnosis of sleep apnea. There you go.
There you go. That's their answers.
Okay.
So not the original Ultra, but the
Damn.
other. So it must be something with the processing or
Sen-
something with a
Yeah,
specific chip
processing
that's in
sensor.
there.
Anything else before we move on? Did you want to finish talking about the Apple Watches? Oh, one thing I'm gonna ask you because I don't know that really the full gist of it. But about different size is bigger mechanism for the latch for bands. Are they compatible? I couldn't find that answer before I hop on. Anybody knows?
Most of the time with any watch bands I've got, they'll be as long as you're not going like way, way, way back to like the old, super old Apple Watches that had like the super small, like 38 millimeter. It will be
Mhm.
like 42, 44, 46, and like the Apple Watch Ultra all have the same connection. So unless you have like something from like series what 1, 2, and 3, I think
Yeah.
series 4 and on
Three.
are all the same size.
I got a 45 right here, and the ones that I had for my old one, which was a 40. Um, I mean, don't get me wrong, they still look okay. But I just personally didn't like the look of him. So I just, I ordered some new bands, which, by the way, thanks, Michael, for that heads up with that last video because, yeah, my ear just blown out as soon as you told me.
I
So I have to re-record and get this uploaded, but I'll do that at some point this week.
I
Yeah,
went and
Michael
listened,
is the audio guy because he's fixed my audio
and
twice.
it reminded me of the days where they told you take a piece of wax paper. No, you take a piece of wax paper and you put it over the end of like a toilet paper tube and put like a rubber band around it, and you like
You know,
speak through it and it gives you like that
real
sound. That's what it
quick,
reminded me, and it's something with the and it's the like if you're too close and the volume and the decibel gain's turned up, it's
how's
vibrating
how's it sound
your
now though? Does it
good.
sound, bro? I'm literally doing nothing. The only thing difference that I did in that video was that I had an adapter connected to my phone, and like literally
Not
that was it. That could have
not
been it
enough
though.
power from the phone, so it turns up the gain in order to try to increase sensitivity,
Compensate.
and
Yeah.
so your the oh, what is it called? The module that's inside the microphone is going to become super sensitive, so it's going to be like that. The other thing is, I do notice it, like if you get really close to it, and when you get
This
really
is it right
loud,
here.
I can still hear it too. But I have super sensitive hearing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
this is it right here. I was just using this, and yeah.
When you're at
So,
normal, normal talk, not super excited, I it's fine. So
right.
Yeah. So yeah, let's move on to the topic because we already talked about the watch. I don't know what else we could talk. Anything but the topic because you got the 1320 M4 right, Mike
yeah.
and Michael. I don't know what call you Mike, but so what's your take on that tablet? What you think about the new features coming in? Any prediction of what you like, or are you happy what they announce? And take it away.
Oh, as far as the iPad, I mean, I've been super impressed with battery life. It's crazy. I have like 4.5 hours of use, and my iPad's got 75% left. So, like on typical days, I've had a hard time killing it. The other day, I ended about 13 hours and still had like 25% of my battery left. And but the problem was, it resets after 24 hours. So I would have to be up at like 8 o'clock in the morning and turn the thing on and have it constantly running something until basically midnight
Yep.
to kill it. And I'm talking about the only thing I managed to do last night to really drain it fast was I plugged in my external monitor and had the iPad powering it, and I was editing a video, exporting the video, doing a thumbnail on like multiple screens, and had my iPad brightness and the external monitor brightness all the way up, and that managed to drain like 20% in an hour. But if
Mm.
you're doing normal stuff where you're not trying to like run powered devices, like a powered monitor that's 4K plus the actual pixels on the display itself cranked all the way up, and exporting and doing all that stuff at once. I mean, considering I could have gotten 5 hours doing that, that's still kind of crazy. But like
Mm.
normal stuff, even if I'm doing normal, like super intensive stuff, I'll get the 10 hours that they claim. But just doing normal, where you're like social media, answering emails, answering messages, watching video, split screen, multitasking stuff, and stuff that most of us do, and even maybe
Mhm.
like a hour of video editing, or a couple hours of video editing in there, FaceTime, stuff like that. I get somewhere around 14 to 16 hours on a charge.
Oh, cool. I
Mm.
want to ask you along those questions before you continue. What's going to happen with the state of the mini? Because I think the mini might get discontinued in the future. Because not for now, but I'm saying maybe 4 7 years from now. Because not a lot of people are buying it. I see people buying it, but it's just this is my meta and quote that I made. And I'm not saying this is the real numbers. I say when I say the 1%er, I mean the techie people that we know. I mean, I don't see family buying it. They're always going for the 11-inch. But go ahead, Michael, or anybody.
For kids who want something smaller than like the regular sized iPad, for doctors, for like musicians, pilots,
So that's
um, uh, farmers, pharmacists, like basically a whole lot of medical field and science field, but
now why they don't
also
upgrade it more frequently. Go ahead.
like we're seeing, well, sometimes they want the bigger screen, but we're starting to see like in sports industry where they've been using iPads for a long time, but we're starting to see them
Mm.
using like the iPad minis. High schools now, like there's apps where that high schools will have where you can like track like their baseball team, so you can see like who's up to bat, what their stats are, who's pitching, who's on certain bases, as far as like if a player is on base, or first, second, third baseman, and stuff like that. You can see all the information, and having a smaller iPad is super handy for that. The one hand ability, but like Apple design, when they announced and talked about I remember them talking about how they designed it to fit like in the front pocket, for like doctors and stuff. It's brilliant.
Mhm.
And price point's a little difficult because it's priced more expensive than the tablet that's bigger than it, that has like the same processor. At least it was. But I think there needs to be a tablet that's smaller than the 11-inch iPad Pro, that is smaller than, which basically the regular iPad is the same size as, but smaller than that, but has like good performance, offers cellular, like has the Apple Pencil support, can, like, the one thing that's nice about it is it's easier to find a mount, because you can find mounts that are for that are like for a phone all the way up to like a foldable or a small tablet. But when you get to like the 11-inch and the 13-inch tablets, you have to go to like special mounts that are designed for them. So people who use it in their car, maybe they don't want to spend a ton of money on CarPlay. The fact that you can just connect one cable and then have everything on it, you get the split screen stuff that you don't get on like a large iPhone. I feel like the iPad mini though would be the perfect device for Apple to make where like Stage Manager.
Mm-hmm.
So you have like the iPad, but then when you really want a desktop interface, but you're not going to use it on the device itself necessarily, you like dock it at home, and now you get kind of not quite Mac OS, but like the option to be able to have like maybe you have a 32-inch monitor and you could have 4 apps up on the screen, and they could limit it. They could say, oh, we're using the A18 Pro chip in it that we use in our iPhones, and instead of you being able to have 4 apps open on each window and up to like 8 total, you can only do 4 total. Like
Mm-hmm.
cooling.
Yeah, but you know what's my gripe? I'm sorry to interrupt you quickly. Why it doesn't get enough love? I don't mean every year upgrade it, but at least every 2 years. They're doing it more than 2 years. But go ahead. Is it because of sale? I don't know.
So I think what really threw it off is, you remember the previous iPad mini got the same chip that the iPhone 13 had, right?
Correct. I remember
What
that.
did they start doing with the iPhone 14s?
I
Either of you
don't.
remember what they did with the processors?
No, I'm trying to remember. I don't, to be honest.
So this year we got the A18 and the A18 Pro. Last year, the base models, so starting with the iPhone 14,
Okay, I think I
the
got it.
iPhone 14s got the same chip that the 13
Yeah, I
series
remember
had,
that. No.
but then the
Now that you mention
14
it.
Pros got the newer chip, and they did the same thing last year, where the A16 from the 14 Pro and Pro Max went into the iPhone 15, but then the A17 Pro chip went into the higher end. This year is the first year we're back to like new chips in both models, and they're not using like the previous. So the last couple of years, it would have been like, well, what chip do we put in the iPad mini? Do we put the one that we're putting in the base iPhone, or do we put the one that's in the Pro? If we put the one that's in the base iPhone, it's the first time we're putting a chip that's different than like all the iPhones in that line had. But if we put the Pro chip, it's got a better processor than the base iPhone, and we're charging less. So like,
True.
Right.
so I feel like that was kind of the issue, and part of it is M2 and M3. Well, they were great processors. There was some issues with some of the stuff, and I feel like that's kind of why we saw them not producing like all the same. Like last year, we didn't see like an A17 and A17 Pro. In the previous year, we saw them kind of passing on previous generations and old architecture chips, and then this year we get all the new stuff, all based off from the same architecture as like the M4, and we get new cooling because they know they messed up as far as cooling was concerned.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I kind of led off from the iPad into iPhone conversation, but I am going to put out, I think this year, the base model iPhones actually got the more substantial upgrades.
Dude,
agree.
yes,
agree.
yes, and I
Right.
was even saying that I think they got a lot of attention, and I think honestly last year too. Like now it's, somebody said it to me earlier. I think it was somebody in our group chat that said it earlier, that the poor people iPhone is getting a lot of attention, and it's definitely true. But
So,
I'm
AKA,
here for it. I'm here for it because honestly, there's gonna be a lot of people that go for that phone, and with reason. Honestly, you know.
yeah, I agree. But some people call it the AKA peasant phone.
Funny
Mhm.
is, I know at least one person that's going from a 13 Pro to a 16 Plus.
Damn.
Ooh, that's
because
good.
bigger screen, bigger battery,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
the teal color.
So I got a
Yeah,
question. I don't know if both of y'all could answer or anybody that knows. You know,
I just want to cut 1 second. LaShawn, you're really making me hungry right now talking about
oh, me
Popeyes.
too.
One of the best sandwiches I've ever had in my life. Enjoy that, man.
Yeah. So my question is, you explain to me why the lens was diagonal or why it was there for certain reasons. So they switched it this year with the 16s. So can you elaborate? Why was the difference? I don't know.
They went angle because it was a way to keep the camera module smaller while making the cameras bigger. Because if you think about it, like the hypotenuse of a triangle is longer than you can go each side. But
Hmm.
then now that they're doing the whole spatial photo and spatial video thing, our eyes aren't angled; they're side by side. Can you imagine if I looked like this all the time?
Oh, that's true.
So they kind of have to align them that way. And now I think they're just to the point. Well, and if you think about it, they did that with the 12 series where they had mini iPhones. So
Hmm.
those were even
Hmm.
smaller. Now that they don't have the mini, they just have like the regular size. They don't really have to worry about that. You have a regular and a plus size. There's plenty of space for them to put those on the back, and they can go back to. Plus, as we saw where they did before, it would be like uh they were at an angle, but it was like one was in the upper right and one was in the bottom left, and then the next year they
Hmm.
switched them the other way, so that way you knew if you had the new, you could tell like, okay, I have the 13, not the 12. So we'll be curious is what will they do next year? Will they like move them in further so that like
I don't know. It's just weird.
now that they're lined up, they can't. Um, I mean, we've seen rumors already though that the regular models are going to get 3 cameras next year, and the pros will go to a fourth camera. If they do
Hmm.
that, then that will be
Hmm.
another thing that's.
Oh, but you know what grabbed me my gears with the camera situation before we continue with the phone, because we already talked about the iPad, and then I'll leave it open to AI, the last conversation. That they say we got extra camera. No, you got the capability, but physically you don't have it. You see? So that's not false advertisement. That's what Lover of Tech was talking on his live stream earlier that I was watching. He's like, yes, we had the ability optically, but physically we don't have it. So
Well,
it's, but go ahead.
so somebody was pointing out how like Vivo could say they have like 14 cameras or whatever if we compared it. Now here's the thing, not really. So
Correct.
when Apple, one of the
Yeah.
things that they touched on, and one of the things that people need to pay really close attention to, is other companies. It's kind of like if you have a regular camera and you have a full frame sensor, but you use a lens on it that crops to the middle, you're going to get less pixels, and um, you're going to have, but you'll have like the same pixel density as the large sensor,
Hmm.
per inch, but you'll have a smaller sensor. You won't necessarily have, and the light will spread out differently. So what Apple's doing by bringing the 48 megapixel sensor as their main sensor, and then they have their ultra wide, and
Hmm.
they combine every 4 pixels from the main sensor to make 12 megapixels, but they're essentially larger by combining the pixels. And then they combine that with the ultra wide 12 megapixels to come out with a 24 megapixel. They're using the physics of what's there, and when you're cropping in, they're actually using the center of the sensor, and they designed the sensor specifically for that. It wasn't like, oh, we have a 48 megapixel sensor, we're just going to use the
True.
middle 12. They
Right.
designed it for that, and when they designed it, they kind of want to make sure that those middle clusters, well, for one, the whole entirety of the sensor, they want to make sure is good quality,
Hmm.
but they're making sure that the specific arrangement for when you grab those middle 12 is still averaging out in the same. I don't want to get too technical, but most camera sensors use a Bayer array of red, green, and blue. There's typically twice as many red and blue as there are green. Our eyes are twice as sensitive to green as they are to the other colors. So that's part of the process. So
Okay, got
when you go to the middle 12 megapixels,
So can I ask you a question
it's not
quickly?
just a quarter of the total, right? You're not just taking one corner, you're taking the middle. So you have 3/4 that are around. So then they need to think about in that middle cluster, are they still keeping the same arrangement? So that means that in the
Oh,
design of the entire sensor, they have to think around that. And then
is that
they
called
have
binning?
sort of
Okay.
when they're
See,
doing
I'm
when they're
understanding.
combining when they're doing the combination where they combine 4 pixels, so you essentially end up with 12 million pixels out of the 48 when they're doing the combined stuff, that's binning. But when they're doing kind of a sensor crop for your telephoto, they're not combining pixels. You're removing pixels from the outer side. So you have 12
Correct.
megapixels. So it's kind of like the old sensor, but you have more pixels around it if you're going to use the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the difference with that is going to be obviously you can choose to use all 48 megapixels if you're not cropping in, but then you can do 24 megapixels and they'll combine every 2 pixels for lower light performance. Or if you choose 12 megapixels, they'll combine 4 megapixels for lower light. So in the settings, like in the camera settings, how you can choose the output resolution, that's going to affect kind of the low light performance.
Gotcha.
If you're in low light, you know, it's going to, even if you've selected 48 megapixels, it might switch over to 12. It like
Yeah.
if the light is low enough that it can't capture it, it's gonna like suggest that you switch over.
And before we continue, sorry to interrupt you quickly. I want to say, welcome to everybody. Don't forget to hit like, comment if you are, like hiding or don't want to be in the chat. That's fine. But go ahead, and then I'll read this question.
So the 16 and 16 plus, they kept the old where it's a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and then you get the 48 megapixel on the wide, kind of just like they did last year, but they've changed the sensors a little bit, just like they have done in the last few years, where like the main sensor is kind of the same on the base and plus as they are on the Pro and Pro Max, and then the ultra wide, though last year was similar, but this year on the Pro and Pro Max, the ultra wide is also a 48 megapixel and gets some of the improved technologies that the main sensor gets, as well as like they fixed, because the complaint where like people were talking about, oh, I can't focus really close, it gets blurry
Yeah,
unless
that's
I'm
just
farther away.
focusing.
Some of that got fixed because the ultra wide has a larger resolution, and it's wider enough now that it's being used as a true macro. Where last year on the Pro and Pro Max, that was an issue. When they went to the 48 megapixel on the main but kept 12 megapixels on the ultra wide, they didn't go wide enough. So you could use it as a macro, but not wide enough that you could get that close. You still had to be like 3 or 4 inches away as opposed to a couple inches. So it wasn't operating like a telephoto. It was still a macro. It just wasn't as close. So this year they've changed that all up. And then the telephoto lens on the Pros are now both 5x. They apparently must have decided that they weren't going to do 3x. And I kind of understand, because you can crop a 48 megapixel sensor
True.
at 2, 3, and 4 and end up with 24, 16, or 12 megapixels basically cropping in on that. Now, that's not how they do it. They basically once you go to zoom in, they're all 12 megapixels, but it just depends on how many you're going to bin together to get that. Which, as long as the main sensor is decent enough and it doesn't try to switch to the telephoto for low light, it doesn't try to like use that for low light, it's not problematic. Which in the past, if you had a 48 megapixel sensor, but the sensor was small, you know, they would use that when you went to use your telephoto sensor. It would use your main sensor anyways. So that's all they're doing is they're doing the same thing that every company has done. But then having 5x allows you to have an actual 5x optical, which
True.
you can kind of crop in on. Now you're going to lose resolution. Now,
Right.
I suspect what we'll see in next year or in a couple of years is that the telephoto will also get a 48 megapixel on the Pro Max, and then you'll be able to do like 20 times zoom with a 12 megapixel image left still. But
Yeah, that is true. Let me read this comment before I forget, if you don't mind. So it says, let's get something straight. There's nothing peasant about the 800 phone. Let's please retire that lame, inaccurate, and conspiracy term. Like Flossie said, see, but it's always had that wrong. Okay. I mean, it's not a peasant phone. I don't think for this year, no. But in the past, it
well,
was in the past. But go ahead.
I mean, if somebody said, I don't care what phone I want, I have an $800 budget, I would not necessarily be recommending that. Like, if they're saying, well, I'm in the Apple ecosystem, I want something fairly new, then you go, okay, what are you going to be doing with it? How long are you going to have it? Oh, I upgrade every 3 to 4 years. You could say, well, maybe, and I don't, maybe they don't take a lot of video. They just want to be able to take some main snapshots. They don't care about the AI stuff. Well, then I could say, well, get a 14 plus,
Right.
or a 15 plus. Go to
Yeah,
like
it depends
previous
on
years and
the
save a
case.
couple $100. But if they don't care if it's iOS, I would say, well, there's devices on the Android side like OnePlus has, an $800 phone that is basically comparable to Samsung's $1,300 Ultra phones. You can go on that side. If they're outside the US, you can go beyond that to like iQOO, and you can look at Vivo, and you can look at like some of those. But in the United States,
But I'll say one thing quickly before I'm sorry to interrupt you. You could get the 15 Pro and probably get a discount. But
that's
go
true.
ahead.
Yeah, or even a 15. You might even be able to go to a 15 Pro Max like on Swappa, and by the time the new ones come out, and get like a
Yeah.
fairly good condition. But the other thing where people are like, it's still only got 60 hertz. Well, there's some people that are super sensitive to refresh rates, and the higher refresh rates. Well, so there's people that have the whole PWM thing where some people with the iPhones, the refresh rate on the iPhone is still not quite as high as some of the Android devices. So some of the Android devices are like what they have to go with. But what's weird,
So before we continue, what is that acronym? Because people might not know they're watching this in the replay.
pulse width modulation. It has to do with the rate at which the display actually like pulses, which is higher than its refresh rate. It's like the pulse of the actual diodes from the AMOLED display. And like now we're seeing ones that are like 4,832 or something like that. Like times per second, we're seeing it super fast. Where I think Apple's still at 480 or something like that. But here's the thing. There are some people that they have to use 60 hertz because anything higher than that hurts their eyes.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And if
But
you're
can
on
I
your
ask you,
iPhone all day long,
can I ask you quickly a favor? Can you get in frame because you're getting off? It's cutting half of your face. I don't want you to look bad.
hold on, let me.
Oh, anything you want to add? Go ahead, Taylor, because you haven't spoke for a while either.
Nah, man, I was just listening to Michael's wise words. I mean, I think he's got it covered.
Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
I mean, I can tell you, I'll be
upgrading to the 16 Pro Max only because like I just got the 15 Pro Max. Like I had my 15 Pro, I sold it.
Bruh.
I went to my carrier, got the 15 Pro Max, and I just pay the taxes to upgrade. So I'll pay $78 and get a 512 gig 16 Pro Max. I mean, obviously I'm paying the $38 a month or whatever to my carrier, but in a year I'll do the same thing for the next one, and I'll only have ever paid a third of the cost of the device. If I ever stop doing YouTube for some reason or stop reviewing phones, I'll just be like, okay, I can just pay it for the remaining 3 years or just pay it off, and it's good. But like as somebody who, if I'm upgrading every year and now I have like more and more case companies hitting me up, the cost of what I would spend on buying these cases myself would probably be like the difference for what I would pay, but if I, would be what I would be paying out to just upgrade every year or kind of hand it over, a couple hundred, $300-$400 in cases is easy to get past.
Yeah.
So.
And also, I want to remember people, just another refresher before we continue to talk about AI, that on Thursday, I'm going to celebrate going over 1K. So it's at Eastern Time, 8 p.m. And before that, I'm going to drop a video if I get my equipment early during the day, because I got everything, just can't record it because of lack of equipment. But Michael knows what I bought. It's a tripod that I bought. But with that, let's continue. Let's go on the AI topic.
I just want to ask one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you were just talking about cases and everything. When the heck did Beats start making cases?
Oh, yeah, it's in the website.
I saw that earlier, and I was like, did I fall off the face of the earth at some point? Because I never thought Beats made anything but headphones.
The link is in the chat. What's up?
I have no idea when they started doing that. I don't know if it's like
that threw me off so hard.
That's weird. Like, where is that line coming from?
Did you guys see the pictures of the cases?
Yeah, you send the link, but you know what I think? It's a generic case. They just slapped the name. To be honest, nothing special. But go ahead.
What's weird is it's not like they're saying, well, our cases are, $50 or $60 or $80 or whatever.
Right.
And Beats is like 20, 30, 40, half the price or whatever. They're still like, because the one I saw, well, it was in euros, it was 47 euros. So that's like what, 50.
Hang on. I'm looking that up.
47 euros in USD.
It's $51.89.
$51.89.
Okay.
That's what I thought. I was gonna say it's about $52.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it correct.
Wow.
So it's not cheap.
It's not cheap, but my gripe with that, before we continue to the subject, is I think it's just rebranding another company because I didn't see nothing special. Kevlar or whatever.
Yeah, and it's not even
meanwhile,
that.
you can buy like this is the Rinky Onyx case that's really nice. Got nice texture to it. Where you can pick one of these up with MagSafe for, I think it was like $16.
Wow. Okay.
Even their normal price on stuff. You have, Thinborn has their nice cases, which are a little on the pricier side, but you got these style.
Taurus.
This is the original one. I have somewhere.
Is that
over
a case
here.
coup or?
That's
case coup is the original.
That would be
company.
Taurus. Here's the new
Taurus.
design. Here's the new version. The next version of it, which was their 360 stand that rotates.
Oh,
They now have the new one. Now is weird though because it's positioned down here instead of rotating around that ring where it attaches here is in like a circle that it rotates around instead.
Oh, gotcha.
Which I get because if you have something attached to here, right, because the ring can rotate. Like if you had a battery pack on there, your battery pack could rotate off axis because the whole thing can still rotate when it's closed.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, I kind of like this design. I kind of like that it can rotate while it's closed. I kind of like that it just rotates in that spot as opposed to like here in a weird area. So I don't know why they changed it up. They did. I have. Oh, it just fell over the side. Hold on.
Whoops.
I just bought this one, Poetic Neo. Yeah, the new Poetic, orange.
ESR. You know.
Oh yeah.
See, these are all 15 Pro cases. The case that I originally got with my 15 Pro that I didn't think I would like, but it's not bad. It's the clay colored iPhone, Apple's silicone case. The only thing that's weird was there was like a flaw in the design of mine where there was like a spot on here that was weird, but all I had to do was kind of use friction and it came off, because when they mold silicone, you can get these, they're almost like a mole spot that's on them. And so, but it came off and it looks nice. Fingerprints, yeah, you're going to get them, but like, okay, you just wipe it down. Most every case does that. Of course, the case I've been using, well, I was using my Banks case, but when I go outside, I use my Spigen.
Hey guys, I'm gonna have to actually hop on out. I have an emergency that I gotta take care of, so I will
Okay,
check
cool.
you guys soon.
Okay, no problem. I
All
hope
right,
everything
see you
goes
guys.
well.
Thanks.
Mhm.
So, but as far as stuff, like I was saying, as far as I'm gonna upgrade, but I wouldn't, recommend if people have iPhones that are probably within like the last couple of years. You're talking like, I don't know. I would think maybe if you're in like an iPhone 12 or older, as far as like, I might recommend upgrading, but like 13 Pro Max is still a solid phone. 14 Pro Max, 15 Pro Max. If you're at the lower end, it gets a little tricky because like the iPhone 13 and 13 Pro didn't necessarily have the greatest of battery life as the Pro Max did. And then the 14 series, though, again, like if you were on like a regular 14 or the 14 Plus, they were pretty solid. But the 14 Pro was a little mad, but the 14 Pro Max was good. And then last year was a similar, like the smaller models were kind of, but like if you're not on your phone all the time, you're still gonna get a day's use out of it. Some people
Yeah,
who only
because
use their phone like 2-3 hours a day might get 2 days use out of it because your standby time is really good. If you're just on your phone to text a little bit and maybe you make an hour, 2 hours calls a day, maybe take a few photos, you get 2 days use out of those things. So, but that's going to be the things I'll be covering, talking about. And I'll be upgrading, but I'll be able to make comparisons. My wife will still have her 15 Pro Max, so I'll be comparing like photos and videos shot between the two. Depending on when my carrier gets mine, I might still have my 15 Pro Max while I have my new phone until I send this one in, unless I go in store. Like if it's available in store and I go.
I just want to quickly say hi to my friend David Foster. He's not the actual producer; he just got the same name. Just want to clarify that. So yeah, you want to take this question? Go ahead, Michael, if you don't mind.
David says, I had the 15 Pro Max, but I'm still upgrading for the 4K 60, 120 FPS and cinematic mode on the 16 Pro Mo device as a content tool. Yeah, so it's not just, 120 frames per second normal stuff, but that's in ProRes and log that you can record that into, external storage. One of the things that excites me as a content creator is, I have my microphone set up and my camera here, but I like recording. I like the fact that I can like set my iPhone on a stand and record with it and then take it down to do B-roll easier. Then I can like try to like angle my camera at the correct angle or take it down and get it at the right. Or if I'm out and about, I like doing like some of the vlog style stuff when the weather's nice. Now that's not super hot, you guys will probably see me doing more of that, like recording case videos outside and stuff. But the microphones too. So some of the microphone stuff that they did as far as like the voice isolation.
Yeah, and thank you for the congrats. But go ahead. Okay. While he's doing that, thank you for the congrats on the 1K. Everything going well on the channel. So I'm
My
happy.
bad, I didn't
So,
want to sneeze into the microphone.
Oh yeah, I understand.
Um, so one of the things couple of things they showed off was like how you could kind of adjust the level of, do you want all like the voices that are around background noise, people coming up next to it, be able to be picked up because maybe you're doing a scene and you want that to be in there. You want to dial that back a little bit so you still have, so you're focusing more on the like the person or the people that are within frame, and if somebody comes up to them, like maybe you're doing a video and the person walks up to them and says something, they're like slightly off camera, you'll hear that, you won't hear them as much as like the wide range, you'll hear them a little bit less. And then you can go less than that where it's like you you hear them, but you can definitely tell they're just kind of in the background and really focused on the main two people,
Oh
or
yeah,
all the way to the point where it's only going to pick up the voices of whoever's on camera. Anything else that comes, any person that comes up, you won't really hear them. Background noise will still be there because it's a little weird to not have it, because you see something, you know, if you're doing a scene where somebody's like in a deli, you expect some sound to be there.
yeah,
Same when they showed like the voice isolation for the wind. If somebody's hair is blowing around, you don't want to hear them and not have a little bit of wind noise, but you don't want it super strong like it is now. So with like the new microphones, they kind of demoed that. Where like, yeah, I've seen like Samsung and OnePlus and some of these companies that really isolate voice out from the wind really well, but it sounds really electronic, and then the
yeah. That's
background
unnatural.
is like eliminated and it's unnatural because you're going to hear a little bit of wind, a little bit of whatever. In the update.
Also, I was gonna say something before I forget that you're talking about all that and the video part and all that. About time, I gotta clap. They put the um you call that the functionality when in the camera and you can move around. You don't have to jump somewhere else and jump hoops. And they got the action button and the camera button, all that. But go ahead.
And oh yeah, we'll touch on that a little bit too, because it's not just for use within the camera. The whole like visual intelligence thing,
Hmm.
where, anyways, so what I was saying though is like, so the microphones and then the memos app where you could record like instruments, and then you could record vocals over it, and you could drag the slider to like separate them, but then you can
Hmm.
combine them back together, is going to be huge for musicians. You know, they don't have to like go into the GarageBand app for doing simple like recording vocals over, and you get the good quality in it, like understands what's separate between vocals and the music in the background. So if you have music playing and you're recording vocals, it will keep those separate. Um, the capture button, if you want to call it that, it's a button, but it's also like a slider, like haptics. So what's kind of crazy to me is the idea that, so one thing with the action button that kind
Hmm.
of always got me is it's positioned on this up here. Now it's great when you rotate like this because, you know, my left thumb here is on it for taking photos, right? Um, but as far as I know, they didn't make it where you, actually I should test that. I'm curious about that. If I go into the photos and I just press and hold on it, okay, yeah, it does. It's recording video now. And then when I
Hmm.
let go, it stops. So it acts as a video shortcut. I wasn't sure if it did that. I never tested that. So
Hmm.
this camera button is doing that, but one thing you can't do with the action button, because it's a physical button and it's only so wide, this new one is dedicated for camera stuff. But the fact you can slide on it to change between like the f-stop and like zooming in and out, or the different styles, or like all those different things that normally when you're in the camera, normally if I go into the camera, you know, you have all those things along the bottom, right, to switch between photo, but you have the stuff right there to zoom in and out. And then if you move it up, you have the to change between like flat, like to change between like aspect ratios or like grid modes, or like your exposure. That's all on the bottom. Well, that's going to go away. Same thing with up here for for the exposure. Brighter, darker.
Mhm.
Getting rid of that so that what you're seeing in the middle of the screen, that's your 16 by 9, has no, like, isn't obstructed by that is huge to me. And the fact that the other thing I thought about is, so when you're holding your phone in one hand like this, my thumb rests perfectly where that button will be. So I
Mhm.
can just press it, go right into the camera, and I'm now recording vertical for vertical stuff without shifting my hand at all. I don't have to like shift it up here to the action button. I don't have to do the jungle gym where my pinky goes underneath
You do
to reach the
gymnastics.
center, to reach the center of the
Mhm.
screen. And then in this orientation,
Mhm.
yeah, you're still gonna have to put your pinky kind of underneath. But if you have a grip on it, or if you hold it in your kind of your palm, you don't have to put your pinky underneath. The pointer finger is going to set where that capacitive button is to slide back and forth on it. You could do that one-handed. If you do it two-handed, you can still um
Oh yeah, that makes sense. I was reading the comment. But go
you
ahead.
still have those options. But one of the things that I thought was kind of neat was visual intelligence, where so you can pop right into that. I think it's like you tap it and then it goes into that versus pressing and holding. And essentially it allows you to whatever's through the camera, you can like kind of take a picture of it, but it doesn't really store it. It
Mhm.
snaps a picture of it and then it analyzes it, kind of like how if you go into photos right now and you find and you find something and you like, let's say I wanted to know, I don't want to give away like um I don't want to give away location, but like right there, right? That tells me it's a Rosa Sharon. It's in the hibiscus family.
Oh yeah.
And you see it kind of analyzing. Well, what you'll be able to do is open up the camera with that capacitive button, and it analyzes what's like in the viewfinder. So if there's a dog breed you want to know, if there's a type of flower you want to know, if that berry is poisonous, you want to know whatever it is. But then you can also go right into using it as a camera with kind of a longer press when you open it. And then that, allows you to then go do the camera stuff. But the visual stuff is neat. And they're working with Google. And so they're kind of integrating, they're doing a visual, like you can do a Google search from it, but they're basically integrating Google Lens into it, which, if you've seen what Apple did with Apple Intelligence and, how
Oh.
they
Really?
integrated already, and how like they're gonna allow ChatGPT to integrate beyond the on-device stuff. So what Apple's
Mhm.
saying is like, we'll use our on-device analyzation of like object recognition for like plants and animals and people and some of that stuff. And also, like, if you take a picture of a sign and it has a date and time on it and you want to add that into a calendar event, that's all on device. But if you want to search the web, well, we know that we need to go to a search engine. So Google will do that. But instead of it like launching into another app, or you having to do like you can do right now, where you can open the Google search app and hit Lens, we'll just integrate the Google visual search into our visual intelligence visual search function through that. And then third party stuff, like other third party like ChatGPT can also
Mhm.
analyze stuff that's in that viewfinder. So we're going from the point where at one point every search was text, right? You did a Google
Correct.
search on your computer or on your phone, to then voice to search with
Mhm.
Google Assistant, with Siri, with Bixby, which still is around. And now we're adding another point, which is visual. It's about time, because the other thing is, for what if you don't have a voice, but you still want to be able to search what's in front of you? You can just pop that open and search without having to like
Okay.
ask Siri, what is this? And like having it analyze, like you took a picture and then it analyzes what's on, or even type it in. You just press of a button and it knows, okay, I'm opening the camera, so clearly it wants me to interpret what's taken through the viewfinder. So you can do that without saying anything. So they're allowing the voiceless to be able to interact and communicate in ways that we aren't really seeing other companies. And I think that is huge and profound.
Yeah.
And
And
just
before,
adds to their whole accessibility thing. So.
true. And I was gonna say, yeah, I want to stay here like 10 more minutes, or around 10 to 30 more minutes. I want to continue with the last part that we haven't spoke. It's the AI. So what you think about it? I think they're useful. I don't think, for what I
Well,
heard,
most
but
of
I
what
don't know
they're
too much.
doing, is
Hmm.
not. There's some photo editing stuff that they showed, like the whole like ability to clean the whole cleanup thing, which I've used in my thumbnails lately. And there's some of the like being able to curate your own memories instead of relying on their algorithm that's developing it. But you're still using their algorithm where it searches
Yeah, before
for
we
images.
continue, can you take this question because it's similar to what you're saying, and then we could continue. Sorry for that.
I hope the AI tech within iOS comes to the smart. He's talking about Mac OS. Smart
Oh,
features in the iOS Photos app would be helpful with finding specific clips on my server.
no, I don't
It's
know
there.
about that.
Those features, those search features, and that the like cleanup stuff is available iOS, iPad OS, and Mac OS. It's across
Hmm.
the whole. The Photos app, all those changes are on
Mhm.
any of the Apple devices that
Well, it's Junior 5.
um, have that stuff. And then
Yeah, go ahead, continue what you were saying earlier.
so I feel like the way Apple does it is they make everything just integrate so like naturally. So like you're going to send a message and it will like kind of suggest maybe your reply or add like an effect to it, or like you're going to type in your address. It's always done this. I can say my address is, and it will fill out what I have listed as my home address and my contact, so I don't have to type it out every time, or my email is. It's done that for a while, but
Yeah,
it's
because you've been
recognizing.
doing the betas. So I just want to say to people, Michael Pepper been doing the beta, so he knows what he's talking. So go ahead.
Well, even before, like the address stuff has been able to do that, I think, since like iOS 16. But some of the newer stuff, like if you send me a name of a song, but you just like say, I really like this song by such and such artist called such and such, so I like this song called A by artist B. You don't have to have like done the share through Apple Music where you can share a song to me, but it
Hmm.
will recognize, okay, it will recognize that Luis sent me a song called A by artist B, and it will pop up right at the top for me to go listen to that like within Apple Music, and I think Spotify and YouTube Music and like some other third party companies are going to it's going to work with too, because it's
Hmm.
just their API. So it'll be whatever you would have as like your music app that you listen to. So like if you don't subscribe to Apple Music, you'd have other ones. Like if I ask SIRI to play a song right now on my iPhone, it's going to do it in YouTube Music because I'm using YouTube Music and not Apple Music right now.
Yeah,
After the
correct.
first time I did it, it figures that out. Same thing with the HomePods and stuff. Um, I mean, we didn't even talk about with the AirPods the fact that the AirPods,
Oh yeah,
there are
go
three
ahead.
different models. You have the
Hmm.
regular, and then they added like the active noise cancellation and the transparency. And so the regular is 129, and that's 179 for like the transparency and stuff. But then the AirPods Pros, the new AirPods Pros are getting like a hearing aid function and
Oh yes.
hearing testing. And that's huge for people who like maybe their hearing is messed up, but they don't really need full on hearing aids and aren't going to pay, $800, $1,000, $2,000 or whatever for, Sony has earbuds that are designed specifically for that. Theirs are like $500-$600. So you get
Hmm.
AirPods Pro for 250, and maybe you're losing your hearing. So you can just turn that on when you need it, but you're not sitting there with like hearing aids in all the time. It just looks like you have your earbuds in. So, maybe maybe you only need it in louder environments. So you just turn that on when you need it, but when you're in normal, you don't need it as much. Or you want to be able to hear your TV a little clearer, you could turn that on. Even if your TV can't pair to them through Bluetooth, you would still be able to kind of pick up the sound better. Or you're at a friend's house, they're not going to crank it up just so you can hear it, but you can kind of turn on those things. You can hear the music better. You can, so it's a multifunction thing without being like, oh, we're creating this specifically to act as a hearing assistant or a hearing aid, but going to charge you like hundreds of dollars.
But you know what? That's being smart because that's the marketing strategy. Because if you think about it, if I'm no matter what age, anybody could lose their hearing. So I'm not gonna go by age. But say you're in a position that you're not hearing that well, then you'd be like, okay, I don't have the type of money or insurance like you say. We could base that on getting less, paying less and stuff like that. And the Max, I don't know if it's good or rip off because well, from what I heard, it's just USB-C. But go ahead, continue the last part, and we could close it out.
It's just new colors and USB-C, and I think some of the features that are like some of the software upgrade stuff, like improved like the personalized audio, which they've had, but like it's an improved version of it and some stuff like that. But really, I didn't feel like they needed to change a ton with those. Oh, the shape on the
No.
AirPods and AirPods Pro, I guess they changed the shape, like the curve of where it goes into the stem
Mhm.
different. So it's supposed to feel more comfortable for people. They analyzed, it was like 50,000 people's ears for like 5 million points of contact or whatever in total to be able to analyze and determine that like this would be a better fit for even the base models. So it's pretty cool, that if you don't need some of the pro features, but and you don't necessarily need the noise cancellation and the transparency, but you like the sound of AirPods, you have 129 for the base models. But if you want some of the like noise isolation and the transparency and some of the other stuff that previously you had to pay 249 for before, there's the middle ground at 179, which is smart. But then if you want those additional, like some of the head, like
Cool.
you can shake your head yes or no to like interact, and the hearing aid kind of functionality. It's supposed to have better isolation. They figured out a way for like tighter fit in the ear, and like the chip that's in it is supposed to help. The H2 chip is supposed to help kind of block out some of the sounds better at wider frequencies at the lower and higher end and stuff. So you can pay the additional $80 and get that if you want it, but you don't really have to anymore. I like that they have that middle step at 179. It gave you a lot of the pro features without having to pay, Now you're not going to get as snug of a fit because there's not the replaceable ear tips, but it is what it is still.
Well, I want to say thank you for coming in. I will put everything in the description below. And before we leave, overall, 1 through 5 being the highest rating, what is the rating you give everything they announced today? Do you think it's good in the middle? It's,
I would say, I think in general, I would say like the AirPods, the Apple Watch, and like the Pro iPhones, I would say maybe a 3.5 or 4 out of 5. I think the regular iPhone, I would give that a higher rating. I think that's like a 4.5 or a 5 out of 5 as far as like, because if you think about, yeah, they put the
but in
capacitive
general, if
button,
you
but it also got the action button, which they never had
that's
before,
true.
and some of the other like more pro level features that are there.
But if you do the whole thing, not just separated, and I know those are got the most features upgraded. I think I'll say like a 4.5 for me. The
Yeah, I
whole
was gonna say like 4.25 out of 5, something like that.
yeah. Because why I'm giving it a little bit higher because of your statement. The regular iPhone got a lot of upgrades, so that's why I bump it up a little bit. So
I
that's my
knocked it
take.
down a little bit only because there's a lot of features that we're not getting until the updates come out, and they're talking about like, oh, some of that's gonna be in beta next month, and then some of this stuff's gonna be like next year.
Okay, you got to.
So
So
And I'm like,
I'll take
not
a
all
little bit
the
off.
stuff is available right now. So once it's available, I can give them some points back.
So okay, I'll bring it back to 4-3 because you're right 100%. Well, thank you for coming in with that said. Appreciate it. Miles, you rock for listening in the airport. And with that said, our Thursday will be my celebration for 1000K. And with that said, don't forget to do all the wonderful things, like, comment, and my usual word. Peace. Don't forget to stay techie. Bye, everybody.